Breaking news tonight, Diddy's $10 million defense starts today. This as we learn the jury is in fear of sitting on the Diddy trial. Good evening, I'm Nancy Grace. This is Crime Stories. Thank you for being with us.
Cassie Ventura is set to take the stand, with prosecutors expected to highlight a 2016 hotel assault caught on video.
This trial of Sean Combs started early this morning in a Manhattan courtroom. Joining me, an all-star panel to make sense of what we know right now. Straight out to Lauren Conlon joining us, co-host Pop Crime TV. Lauren, thank you for being with us. Tell me about what happened first thing this morning.
Court began this morning with Diddy asking the judge for more water, or the judge said something like, "Do you have enough water?" And he said, "Could I have some more, Your Honor?" Diddy appeared to be wearing a light cream-colored sweater, which I thought was a great choice for a defendant. He had his glasses on. He was looking through some paperwork at the beginning of the morning, and he would turn around to smile at his mom and wave to his family who were in the front row. He gave a thumbs up at one point. I actually saw Janice Combs, his mother, in the lobby this morning, and she was wearing an all-black suit, a black purse, and she looked like she was going to a funeral, to be honest. I also want to point out that when the jury walked in, Diddy did not take his eyes off of them. He watched their every move.
This, as we are learning, the jury is actually in fear. In fact, the judge was afraid to impanel a jury on Friday, thinking they would back out with cold feet over the weekend. Listen.
The original plan was for jury selection to be completed on Friday, but Diddy's lawyers asked for a delay, raising concerns more jurors would get cold feet between Friday and Monday. The court received an email from one potential juror asking to be left off the panel for issues of personal well-being, according to the Combs team. Prosecutors strongly opposed the delay. Judge Arun Subramanian agreed with the defense.
Okay, to Eric Faddis, veteran trial lawyer joining me out of the Denver, Colorado jurisdiction. Partner, Varner Faddis, elite legal former prosecutor. That's not good when the jury is afraid to be in the box, the jury box.
Yeah, yikes. I mean, this is a high-profile case. There is a ton at stake. And Nancy, I'm sure you'll recall the judge actually declined to give Diddy bond because there were concerns that he was engaging in witness tampering or witness intimidation. Those same concerns could translate to this jury, and it could cause them to get cold feet or otherwise be considering that when they're deciding the case, which is obviously a problem.
You would have to be living under a rock in a cave on the other side of the world not to know that there are allegations that Sean Combs ordered a hit, a murder, on Tupac Shakur. Listen.
Dwayne Keefe D. Davis claims credit for Tupac's murder on BET and in his memoir. He says Puffy Combs wanted Knight and Tupac's heads after their diss track hit him up. When Davis offers to carry out the hits, Combs agrees to pay him $1 million. Davis, Anderson, Terrence Brown, and DeAndre Smith stake out the club where Shakur is performing, but Tupac's a no-show. Driving down the strip, they spot Knight and Tupac stopped in traffic. Brown flips a U-turn in their white Cadillac. Davis passes Anderson the gun, and Anderson leans over Smith to shoot Tupac.
We'll wipe their out quick, you know, it's nothing.
Who brought up the amount of $1 million?
He did.
Puffy did?
Yeah.
Biggie ever involved in any of these conversations about hitting Tupac? Okay. It's always just Puff and Sip.
Yeah. This is all Puffy's doing. Yeah.
Straight out to Robert Crispin joining us, private investigator, former federal task force officer, U.S. DOJ, also with DEA, now at Crispin Special Investigations. Crispin, thank you for being with us. You are staked out in front of Diddy's home there in Florida, where it all started with the bust. I want to hear how the neighbors are taking today, but more important, you think if this jury has seen the Cassie video and they all have an opinion on it, you think they don't know about the hit on Tupac Shakur?
Yeah, that's going to kind of tie it in, isn't it? And they're going to wonder like, boy, that's kind of interesting. But, you know, Nancy, I'm coming to you live out in front of Diddy's house here. in Star Island in Miami Beach. And if today is any indication of what's going on in Diddy's world as his trial starts, it's a dark, rainy day. The neighbors, they're really happy that there's no more attention. There's no more late parties, 3-4 day benders, the drugs. In that white gate behind me, that's where the feds went in with their search warrant. That's where the drugs came out. That's where the electronic evidence came out. That's where everything started to unfold for Diddy before he got indicted.
I just find it very difficult to believe that if the jury has seen the Cassie video already, which they're going to see at trial anyway, that they don't know about the hit on Tupac Shakur. Which gets to my point, Crispin, that one juror backed out and said he was afraid for his own and his family's safety, got cold feet and wanted off the panel. And that's the one that would speak out. Have you ever had a case where jurors or witnesses were actually afraid?
Oh, absolutely. And that's a very real fear, because if he's found guilty, revenge is best served on a cold plate. And these people are going to be looking over their shoulder all the time. In drug cases in Miami, same thing. You want to sit there and look a drug lord in the eye and convict him when you have a wife, kids? These are everyday people that get jury subpoenas and end up sitting on these high profile cases. And there's a lot at stake when you hit either that guilty or that not guilty box on that jury form. That's an issue. And I would be afraid.
To Dr. Bethany Marshall joining us, a high-profile psychoanalyst out of the LA jurisdiction, author of Dealbreaker. You can see her currently on Peacock and find her at drbethanymarshall.com. Dr. Bethany, I think that the jury wants to do the right thing. I think in their heart of hearts they want to serve on the jury.
Yes.
They want to be impartial. But the reality is, when you have a family at home, children, right? It's not just about you anymore. I've had jurors on gang cases, say right up front, I've heard about the case, I can't sit on this jury, I've got children. They're they were in inner city Atlanta, Fulton County. I don't know if they're being upfront in the Diddy trial, but I do know that one juror said, I want off the panel because I'm afraid. I mean, I think they want to do the right thing, but when push comes to shove and it's going home to their children and their family, I don't know. What do you think? This is real.
Sure.
Very often, Bethany, you hear me say, that's BS, that's just in the movies, that's in a book, that's on a TV series, that doesn't happen in real life. This actually happens, I know for a fact.
Nancy, this is no fairy tale. This is no novel. This is a real life story. And yes, jurors want to do their civic duty. I think we all do. But as I tell my patients in my practice, your duty is always to your family first. Above all, your spouse and your children, your job is to keep your family safe. If you abdicate that role, who is going to be there for them? And, not only are the jurors at risk, the judge as at risk. You and I have covered many cases where judges and their families have been targeted. And then what about when the case is over? These jurors forever will be known as the people who either vindicated or convicted P. Diddy. And there are people on both sides that will love and, more importantly, hate them. And finally, Nancy, what about all those celebrities who could be exposed throughout the course of this trial? Or if P. Diddy gets convicted, information starts to roll out. Those celebrities may have a vested interest in quieting these jurors as well.
This morning, it all kicked off with Sean Combs walking into the courtroom with a dry mouth, asking for more water. And I know for a fact that at every jury trial, each side, state and defense, has at least one huge pitcher of ice water and glasses, usually plastic glasses, for the lawyers and the defendant to have. So I'm wondering why, first thing in the morning, he needed a whole nother pitcher of water. What about it? Lynn Shaw joining me, founder, executive director, Lynn's Warriors, committed to ending human trafficking and sexploitation of girls, host of Lynn's Warriors on YouTube. Lynn, thank you for being with us. Diddy got a dry mouth?
Yeah, well, Diddy just wants to get up again and parade through the courtroom and say he needs another bathroom break so everybody can look at him in his little pullover sweater, his little gray hair, looking all pudgy or skinny. There's varying reports, and try to gain sympathy with anybody in this courtroom. Why, just the other day, there was a pregnant local reporter here in New York City, and he was asking her or mouthing to her, "How are you doing?" or "How are you feeling?" Something to that effect. So there's plenty of water, in the courtroom already. Another clever ruse just to distract away from the real story here. Victims, victims, victims. And I just want to say something, being here in New York City, living here for decades, there are many Dirty Diddy disciples lurking in the background who will get ready to do some dirty deeds for him. No matter how this goes, I would be very afraid anybody, judges, jurors, anybody in that courtroom, reporters, of this Dirty Diddy.
Joining us in addition to Lauren Conlon at the courthouse, Sydney Sumner joining us, Crime Stories investigative reporter, also on the case. Sydney, I understand that first thing this morning, Combs comes in, demands a whole nother pitcher of water. I wonder why he's got dry mouth. But that said, his mother, Janice Combs, also came into the courtroom. In the past, she's been very flamboyant in her dress, but she's taking a page out of Sean Combs' playbook and dressed like she's going to a funeral, Sydney.
That's right, Nancy. Dressed all in black. And Combs' mom isn't the only family member in attendance today. 6 of his children are also in the courtroom, and they're dressed very similarly. All of them walked in sunglasses, and all of their clothing is black and white.
They all had on sunglasses in the courtroom?
At least as they were walking in.
I want to go back to the fact that Sean Combs, that we know of, is laying out $10 million for his defense, but jurors in fear. Back to Sydney Sumner joining us, Crime Stories investigative reporter. This is a big deal, Sydney Sumner. We know that one juror, as I said earlier, begged the judge to be taken off the jury panel because he's got a family and got, quote, cold feet. But I know the defense struck a juror that said they had seen the Cassie video and that Combs looked angry and hostile. They struck that juror.
Yes, that juror is gone. They commented on that video, said Combs looks angry and hostile, but the government has struck a candidate who said he heard about the Combs case on Joe Rogan's podcast. So we've already had a tit for tat.
As if the jury didn't know about the Tupac Shakur hit, the alleged hit, where multiple witnesses say Combs ordered $1 million hit for Tupac Shakur's head, and he got it. What about the fact that these jurors they've already seen the Cassie Ventura beatdown video? Listen.
As potential jurors are questioned about their ability to maintain impartiality, an obstacle quickly rears its head: the video of Combs attacking Cassie. Numerous potential jurors have seen the video and formed opinions on it. Of those who have watched it, only a few were able to say they did not think it would affect their impartiality.
We expect that particular version not to be introduced at trial. Why? Because the defense said it had been sped up and it wasn't in its original pristine form. Well, be careful what you ask, my dear, for you will surely get it. Now, the jury will probably see the entire version in its entirety and in regular motion, right, at regular speed. They'll probably wish they had kept the sped up CNN version. You know, Robert Crispin joining us there at Sean Combs' mansion in Florida. So they know about the Tupac Shakur murder hit, the $1 million hit. They know about the Cassie beatdown video. They've seen it. We've got one juror begging off the panel because he got cold feet. The jury is afraid. They don't care that Sean Combs is spending $10 million on a defense, a slick defense.
Yeah, well, I think what the jury's starting to think is, wow, these are some violent people. What have I gotten myself into? Like I said before, that video was a gift to the prosecution. But what that video does do, it gives a look inside Diddy's real world when he thinks nobody's watching, nobody's around, and it's just him and his victim, or him and an ex-girlfriend, or him who doesn't agree with him.
When, if ever, was the last time you checked your home's title? Well, if you're like me, the answer is never. So stop what you're doing and make sure your title is still in your name immediately. Go to HometitleLock.com, use promo code Nancy. You also get a free title history report plus a free 14-day trial of their $1 million triple lock protection. Free. That's 24/7 title monitoring, urgent alerts to any changes, and if fraud should happen, they spend up to $1 million to fix it. Go to HometitleLock.com now. Use promo code Nancy.
Explosive surveillance footage allegedly showing Combs assaulting Ventura has been admitted into evidence.
The jury was finalized in the Sean Combs federal indictment trial at 9:45 a.m. Straight out to Lauren Collins standing by at the courthouse. Lauren, what happened?
The opening statements for the prosecution said that we are going to hear from Cassie this week, along with another witness named Jane. They said we're going to see videos of these freak-offs, and it's going to be very uncomfortable for a lot of people. The prosecution also said things that I had never heard before. They said things like Cassie was forced to allow an escort to urinate in her mouth at one point, and this was per the instructions of Sean Combs. The other witness, Jane, is going to testify that she and Diddy got into an altercation where he allegedly stomped on her face and that she would run into every single room, lock the door, he would chase after her and kick the door down. And it was very graphic.
Straight out to Lynn Shaw, founder-director Lynn's Warriors, committed to ending sexual exploitation of girls and women. What? It sounds like he's going to college. He's wearing reading glasses. Have you ever seen Sean Combs wearing reading glasses? Oh, okay, that's fake. And the sweater, the white shirt, the khaki pants. What is he, a freshman at Harvard, Lynn Shaw?
Well, he's pretending to be one dirty Diddy. Listen, none of us are fooled anymore. None of us, we can all see through this. He's wearing reading glasses. I'm sure it's plastic in the frames or clear glass. Nobody, we're New Yorkers. This is a New York jury. We do not get fooled, especially about this case. He has been for decades now, since the early 90s, on the lips, I'm telling you, of New Yorkers. So many people here know about him already. I don't know what he thinks he's doing. None of this is going to help him. Let us keep the focus on victims, survivors, and not only the alleged ones of this case, but of all victims and survivors of all of this exploitation. Because, Nancy, they are seeking some kind of justice from this case. They want some answers. They want somebody powerful, money, who has been flaunting this in everybody's face, this exploitation. They want somebody held accountable. And I say, Dirty Diddy going down. This is the case.
To Eric Faddis, veteran trial lawyer, former prosecutor, joining us out of Colorado. Eric, I mean, what's next? A wheelchair and a neck brace?
No, he can't go in there wearing a bejeweled cape or something, right? This is court. And another take on it is that, hey, this is where Diddy is at in life currently.
Faddis, yeah, we would never want him to reveal his true self. I mean, have you seen the Met Gala pictures? That's the real Sean Combs right there with the cape, going down the steps. There you go. Yeah, so you just said, Faddis, he can't go in wearing a cape. Well, why not? Because that's what he normally wears. So you're going along with the eye tricking the mind with him dressed up like a Harvard freshman?
You know, I'm not sure that's what's going on here. Look, he doesn't have his stylus on retainer anymore. That's obvious. But on top of that, maybe this is Diddy's true self currently. You know, he is no longer this high profile, powerful mogul with all these resources. He is incarcerated. He is facing a serious federal trial. And so his life has changed. He has gray in his hair. My understanding is his appearance has been drastically transformed. And part of that could just be a reflection of what's going on around him, of the current state of his life. This is who he is today. That's who those jurors are seeing.
To Dr. Bethany Marshall joining us, high-profile psychoanalyst. Dr. Bethany, it seems trite, very trite, that visual tricks are being used on the jury. Khaki pants, and you know, you heard Faddis say he doesn't have a stylist. I bet you anything he does have a stylist. Those outfits were carefully chosen, very carefully chosen. Have you ever, time immemorial, ever seen Sean Combs in a pullover sweater and khaki pants? Think back. Use that time machine. I mean, all the way back. Whether he's on stage at the Met Gala, walking around LA, or where Crispin is joining us down at his Miami mansion, never once. These are serious charges, Bethany. I have seen women, victims, much less with it videoed in front of a whole crowd of people while they're drugged, according to the prosecution, that basically stay indoors the rest of their life. There is a profound impact. Victims. And there is Sean Combs in a fake pair of reading glasses. What's he doing? Reading Proust? War and Peace? I don't know. It's BS. It's a trick. And there's serious charges here, Bethany.
We know not only is it a trick, but it's manipulative. And we know that if the allegations are true, Puff Diddy is a manipulative person and may have hired manipulative defense attorneys. And jurors are not stupid, Nancy. They do see through this. Jurors can feel bored, offended, devalued, treated like they don't have minds and they can't think. They are not going to like that. And you know what they also wouldn't like, and the defense knows this, to see a man with carats and carats of diamonds around his neck in the form of a cross, who then uses his power to exploit other people. That is a very unsympathetic character, Nancy. And of course, the defense wants to hide that. The other thing is that I think ordinary people tend to look at very wealthy people with the suspicion that maybe, you know, the saying, behind every great fortune lies a great crime. The jurors can see that too, that how did P. Diddy get to the top? How did he accrue all this wealth? Why is he hanging around with people who are some of the most vulnerable people in society? So, hey, these defense attorneys have a lot to camouflage, and these jurors are going to see through it. I guarantee that.
Joining us at the courthouse, Lauren Conlon. Lauren, tell me about the challenge Sean Combs' defense team made to these jurors. The defense team, the lead attorney, argues that African Americans were systematically excluded from the jury for racial reasons. What happened?
They started with the jury strikes, and the defense pointed out that the feds, or the government, struck 7 black jurors out of 9. So the prosecution gave their reasoning behind these strikes, and it was very valid. I mean, some of these jurors, they had said something like they were going to lose 30% of their income by being on this trial, but that wasn't a concern for them, which actually led the prosecution to say, well, I have questions about their intent here, and the fact that they might want to be here for ulterior reasons, or they might have an ulterior motive.
Eric Faddis, this argument is as old as dirt, and it has been addressed by the U.S. Supreme Court in Batson versus Kentucky, B brother ATSON v. Kentucky. In that case, the prosecutor was accused of striking from the jury, the grand jury panel, of 80 to 100 people, in order to get 12 for the petite jury of 12, striking for racial reasons, which is unconstitutional. Therefore, whenever you strike anybody, whether they're white, they're black, they're Asian, doesn't matter, you better have a good reason for striking. When I struck juries, typically my defendant was black, my victims, usually there were more than one, were black. There was no real racial undercurrent going on in the courtroom. So I didn't have a lot of Batson arguments against me. But what the state has to do, and I'm sure that they did, you have to write. I would keep the jury list. And what that is a huge printout. I don't know if they do them the same way in your jurisdiction. I'm sure they do, Faddis, where you have the juror's name, whether they're married, maybe where they work, whether they live, to ensure they live in that county or that jurisdiction, or else they're not qualified for the jury. Maybe a little bit more identifying information. But that said, I would put notes, my notes, beside each name. So if there was a challenge, I could say, well, I struck him because he doesn't have a job. And if he can't show up to a job every day, then why do I think he's going to show up to court and pay attention? Or juror fell asleep in voir dire, jury selection. Or let's see, here's a good one. Juror's husband convicted of, if I'm trying a case, yeah, I don't want her on. So I would always keep notes, brief notes beside each juror, whether I wanted them or didn't want them, of my impressions of that juror as we were striking the jury, as I was questioning them on voir dire. So Batson v. Kentucky, easy solution to have your reason as to why you struck the juror when the challenge arises. Weigh in on Batson v. Kentucky, Faddis. I'm sure you faced it in court.
Yeah, no, great minds think alike, Nancy. That's exactly how I did it when I was a prosecutor, because here's the thing. Raising a Batson challenge is kind of a big deal, because it's really insinuating that the other side is kicking somebody off based on their race. That's inflammatory and problematic. And so you need to have a race neutral reason for excluding those folks. This wouldn't be the first time that the defense has brought up race, and historically race has played a role in the justice system. Let's be honest. And so is the Diddy team sort of using that as one potential argument to this jury in terms of why some rich black man is facing these federal offenses? I think they're going to take that route in some form or fashion.
Please join us on our mission to find missing people, especially children, to solve unsolved homicides. If you're on the go, catch us on your favorite podcast app, where you can get all of our content, where we, in our own way, seek justice.
The trial is just getting started, expected to last 8 weeks, with shocking testimony from accusers and insiders on deck.
Witness 3 is still missing. The court was informed last week that prosecutors have lost communication and cannot locate her. In fact, prosecutors cannot reach her attorney either, meaning they are not sure victim 3 will show up in court. The woman does not live in New York. TMZ reports the woman never wanted to appear in court at all, refusing to cooperate and never agreed to testify against Diddy. Prosecutors said victim 3 would disclose very personal and explosive details concerning abuse she suffered under Combs.
Plenty of respect to Harvey Levin over at TMZ, but they had to speak to her at some point in order to put her on the witness list. Right now, the state is down a victim. Victim gone. Even though we know at some point she had to speak to the feds, even the lawyer is not responding to calls. Joining me there at Diddy's mansion in Florida, where the neighbors are happy this thing may finally be put to rest, Robert Crispin joining us. Crispin Special Investigations, former Federal Task Force Officer, U.S. Department of Justice. Robert, a witness, not just a witness, but a victim is in the wind. I've had it happen to me on a child sex trafficking case. The victim disappeared and was a no-show the first day and a half of trial. Let me just say, I was out all night, literally with my investigator, going to every flop house in inner city Atlanta, trying to find the girl. We found her and went forward. Then I would try the case all day long. We found her. Not so easy in the Diddy case. This victim could be anywhere in the U.S. and the lawyer's not picking up the phone.
Yeah, we call that being scared to death. That's exactly what that is. This person doesn't want to testify. She's already related to the government that she doesn't want to testify, because if she testifies and he's found guilty, she's damned. If they find him not guilty, she's damned because they let a alleged sexual predator back on the street. It's a lose-lose situation for a victim. And it's very intimidating, even though you're a victim with all the victim's rights and the victim advocates. When it comes down to you getting up and sitting in that chair and raising your right hand and actually telling your story, it's very intimidating. Not only is it intimidating, it brings up bad past in your mind and in your heart. It's really something that a lot of people, they don't want to be part of anymore. They just want it to go away.
Intimidating. They all know what happened to Cassie Ventura. Okay, and that was at a public hotel. They know what happened to her. No wonder she's disappeared and the lawyer's not picking the phone up. And we know that even from behind bars, prosecutors have produced evidence Combs is tampering with witnesses. Listen.
Prosecutors say even behind bars, Sean Combs has an uncanny ability to get others to do his bidding. Diddy has been accused of obstructing his sex trafficking case by paying off witnesses and even enlisting his own children in a public relations campaign, namely the video posted by 7 of his children wishing Dad a happy birthday in November.
Now, we heard Faddis spout out that Sean Combs doesn't have a stylist. BS. He does have a stylist. If he's focusing that much on what he's wearing to court, you want to tell me he hasn't tried to get to the victims? Listen.
Prosecutors say evidence from Sean Combs' cell shows the accused rapper made relentless efforts from jail to contact potential witnesses, including victims. These methods reportedly involved 3-way calls using other inmates' phone access codes, a third-party communication service, and directing family members to contact potential witnesses. The aim to blackmail victims and witnesses into either silence or to provide testimony helpful to Combs.
Speaking of getting to the victim, straight out to Sydney Sumner joining us, Crime Stories investigative reporter. Sydney, isn't it true prosecutors are planning to introduce evidence that Sean Combs forced one of his victims to undergo an unwanted medical procedure? I mean, was it an abortion? I don't know. But what can you tell me about that? If he could force a victim to undergo an operation, a medical procedure, what makes the state think he's not trying to scare or intimidate the victims in this case, Sydney?
No, that's right, Nancy. Prosecutors intend to introduce this evidence, and we don't know yet what that unwanted medical procedure was. You're completely right. It definitely could have been an abortion, going along with the fact that Diddy coerces all of these women into unwanted sexual encounters and then doesn't want to keep relationships with them. So prosecutors are introducing this to show that pattern of behavior, to show the level of control that Sean Combs exerted over his victims. So that could be really powerful in front of the jury.
It was exactly 10:20 a.m. this morning that the jury came into the courtroom with Sean Combs standing at attention to impanel and swear in the jury. This is a day that's been long in coming. The state claims that decades of abuse of women and so-called freak-offs have occurred. Finally, will there be justice? This as one of the victims disappears. Can't find her or her lawyer. Straight out to Sydney Sumner joining us, Crime Stories investigative reporter. I understand in light of victim number 3, a no-show, the state has added victim 5 to the roster.
Now, victim 5, who is not mentioned in charging documents, will not be able to just replace victim 3. Judge Subramanian has ruled that they will not be able to include all of the intended testimony, only part of it, because this victim is a similar transaction. This victim will also not be granted anonymity.
We know that one of the victims is not asking to testify under a pseudonym. It's Cassie Ventura. Cassie Ventura is heavily pregnant at this juncture, and her cross-examination by the defense is going to be very tricky. Listen, when you have a pregnant lady a mom up on the stand. I mean, how cruel can you be? You can't really, shred her on the stand. That from our friends at Tubi, and of course, Mark Garagos gave me a very vague answer on that. But Eric Faddis, if the defense team comes across as bullying Cassie Ventura, that's going to totally play against Combs.
Well, that's going to rub the jury the wrong way. Absolutely. I mean, not only do you have this superstar already sympathetic victim, but there's a video of her being brutalized, and the person being brutalized is going to be on the stand pregnant, telling you how she was verbally and sexually brutalized. And so it's going to be a delicate dance here. The defense has to kind of approach this in a sensitive fashion, but also be firm enough to get their points across. And so the balance to be struck here cannot be understated.
The Diddy trial kicks off today with opening statements launching what's expected to be a bombshell 8-week courtroom showdown.
Bombshell in the courtroom. The defense is actually going to argue that Cassie Ventura was the aggressor, that she was the one giving Sean Combs the beatdown. What juror is going to believe that, especially in light of this?
It's so difficult to reflect on the darkest times in your life. But sometimes you got to do that. I was up. I mean, I hit rock bottom. But I make no excuses. My behavior on that video is inexcusable. I take full responsibility for my actions in that video. I'm disgusted. I was disgusted then when I did it. I'm disgusted now. I went and I sought out professional help. I had to go into therapy, and go into rehab. Had to ask God for his mercy and grace.
Second verse, same as the first. So if he didn't do it, why is he apologizing for it? And that's on Combs' official Instagram. I wonder if they're going to play that. We know the Cassie Ventura tape is in. I'm hearing Lynn Shaw, Combs in that video stating he wants to be a better person. He's disgusted with himself. He's going to rehab. But yet, that's out of one side of his mouth. Out of the other side of his mouth, he's actually going to argue to the jury that Cassie was the violent one.
Please stop, Nancy, because I'm getting sick. I'm getting sick watching that video over and over again. We have to remember people are visual. Once they see that video, this will stick in their minds. Now, listen, we work with a lot of survivors and victims at the Warriors. What do they tell me repeatedly? When they are being attacked, they play dead. They do not move. They don't want to further enrage that person. They don't want more beatings, so they remain very still. Where is her video of her beating him? That's what I want to know. Why is this playbook the same thing? We're in court a lot. Flipped on, putting it on the victim. Oh, it's their fault. They caused me to do it. That's consensual. You know what? The jury, again, like Dr. Bethany said, like I'm saying as a New Yorker, New Yorkers are smart. They're not going to buy this. And you know what? Dirty Diddy going down.
Sydney Sumner, where are we getting the $10 million defense bill?
Nancy, that's coming from several expert defense attorneys who all believe that each day of trial could be costing Combs more than $100,000. This is coming. Top lawyers charge $1 million retainers for complex federal cases like this. They charge about $1,600 an hour, and their support staff behind them costs about half that much per hour. So several people agree that a $10 million price tag is a reasonable estimate.
Whoa. Faddis, I don't know about you, but I got paid it seemed like a little over minimum wage. If you equal it out over all the overtime hours I worked as a prosecutor, I had 2 night jobs teaching school at night to pay the house and the car note. $10 million. They better produce.
This is a high price tag, no question, but it's a very complex case. You know, the allegations span decades. There are umpteen witnesses, several jurisdictions. It's just very involved. And so surely it is going to warrant a high fee from the attorneys, and they're going to have to come with it because $10 million, a person expects results.
All I can say is they better bring it. We wait as justice unfolds, and now we remember an American hero, Patrol Officer Stephen Arkell, Brentwood PD, New Hampshire, shot and killed in the line of duty. Served law enforcement 17 years, leaving behind wife-turned-widow Heather, daughters Kimberly and Lauren. American hero, Patrol Officer Stephen Arkell. Thank you to our guests, but especially to you for being with us. Nancy Grace signing off. I'll see you tomorrow night, 6 and 9 o'clock sharp Eastern. And until then, good night, friend. Please join us on our mission to find missing people, especially children, to solve unsolved homicides. If you're on the go, catch us on your favorite podcast app where you can get all of our content where we, in our own way, seek justice.